Good morning, Christopher. How are you?
Luke, right?
Yeah,
How are you doing?
I'm
Me,
well. And yourself?
good. Thanks for coming on to the podcast.
100%. May I refer to you as Chris, Christopher? How do you like to go about it?
Just call me Chris.
Awesome, Chris. How's everything? How's your weekend?
Good. Thanks for coming on to the podcast. Let me start my video. You're in Canada?
I am in Canada. And
Okay.
yourself?
I'm in Texas.
Oh,
So,
nice. You guys. I've never been to Texas, but I've heard nothing but great things about Texas.
yeah, excellent. So thanks for coming on to the podcast. Do you have any questions or anything? Or
No, I mean, I'm an open book, so I'm open to ask any question that you might have. I come from a different I have a different set of lenses when it comes to business development. So I find that that's what people ask me most about. I know
Okay.
you're more in the health and doctorial space, if you will,
Uh,
but I have a lot of people pick my brain about actual pure business development. I mean, did you have any questions about me?
Yeah, well, I go off your ideas, and then would I'm happy to talk about your unique slant, because that's because real estate is kind of it's just traditional. So but I'm happy to new angles, new slants, new ideas. So and I'm just happy to I'll go off your topics, and then it'll just basically we vibe off of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm open to talk about anything. The last podcast I did, a couple of kids that were in their early 20s as well wanted to pick my brain about how I use business development in my relationship life, that
Yeah,
side. So I could talk about anything. So you just let me know.
excellent, excellent. All right, well, I'm gonna get started. Let's see here. And you go by Luke, or just Luke? Is it leasing or Lissing, or how do I? Is it
Yeah, it's Luc Lising. Yeah,
leasing? Okay, all right. Is
Luc
that
Lising.
Cantonese, or is that Vietnamese, or
I'm Filipino, actually.
oh, Filipino? Okay, oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna start in three. Welcome everybody to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. As you know, I talk about the four different types of freedom: time, financial, location, health freedom. And in that light, I am always in the search for entrepreneurs, thinkers, people on the cutting edge, impacting and changing the world. So today we have a guest from based out of Canada, Luc Lising, and he's actually been the top 1% of all realtors nationally, and he's dubs himself as the a problem solver, and it's going to be a fantastic conversation. He has a unique angle and slant on business development applied to business, career, relationships, finances, and so I'm happy to have him on the show. So, Luke, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for we had met through Podmatch, and what's really interesting, you have a really interesting bio, and I'm always trying to interview some of the cutting edge thinkers. Podmatch is a great place. So tell us more about yourself, your background, and how you got started.
Yeah, completely. So a couple of years ago, I was just getting into real estate. I was applying to get my real estate license here in Canada. And after I got licensed, I was 19 at the time when I first started. For the first 6 months, I couldn't put together a single deal. And long story short, I've networked my way into meeting one of the top real estate brokers across all of Canada. It's not like a saying, like by the actual numbers. I believe at the time he was number one in units sold and number two in commissions collected. So he was at the top of our business in Canada. And that gentleman, Jazz, mentored me in my first year in real estate. I worked as his assistant. I put my ego to the side. I didn't care about selling. I didn't care about running away and doing my own thing with my own business. I just worked as his assistant. And yeah, I mean, I picked up everything that I learned from him. And then ever since then, I took off spreading my own wings and just did my own business.
Yeah. And what's interesting is so I see your bio, born in 2000, you're Gen Z, and just the way your demeanor and the way of life is really reflective of where our society is going. So tell us, well, more is what's really interesting is you found a mentor, and you basically learned from him and then you applied it. So one is you talk about sharing how to dominate any industry. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. So you even mentioned it earlier. I like to say, I don't tell people that I'm a realtor. I tell people that I solve problems. And the reason being is because I'm in the business of solving problems, whether it's real estate or my second business, which is called Auto Vision GTA. And that to me, Auto Vision GTA was kind of like a test subject. I was always very good at selling real estate. I knew how to build relationships. I knew how to get deals done. I knew how to convert cold leads into raving fans, is what I'd like to say. So then I thought, okay, I dubbed myself as a problem solver. Can I really prove that in a business sense? So I started a totally different business, not related to real estate whatsoever. I used zero real estate contacts. And yeah, I ended up scaling a side business in the auto space to a six-figure operation within 4 months. And I do that because as we mentioned earlier, if there's a problem that needs to get solved and if you're prepared to pay me, I'm prepared to get it done. I think it's as simple as that.
It's it's interesting because you remind me of when I was in my early 20s, but I focused more on career and just in years more focused on business. And I like to see Gen Zs that are very focused, and because most people in their 20s, they're partying, doing whatever. And so it's great to see focus and drive and coming onto podcasts and sharing your knowledge and wisdom for what it's worth. And then the what one thing is interesting is so from a Gen Z perspective, what do you see as some of the top skills? So if I have my nephew's 8 years old and my niece is 3, if I were to tell them, Gen Z, what skills should you develop?
The number one natural skill that all young people automatically have that you don't even need to develop is your energy. Now that's slowly starting to drain away because people are sucking on vapes, eating junk food, and doing all these things that damage their body. If you're destroying your body, it's going to be hard for you to stay motivated or disciplined to build a career, build a business, whatever it may be. So the first thing I would say is, as a young entrepreneur, as a young person getting into their first job, career, whatever it is throw away all the garbage that you're consuming. Stay away from social media so much and harness the energy you have. That's a natural skill we have. In terms of an actual skill that you can develop that'll excel you in any realm. It doesn't matter if it's in car sales or if you're in construction. It doesn't matter. I think if you know how to communicate and network with people, I think that's the best skill anyone can learn. Because I didn't know anything when I was 18, when I first got started, 19. I'm 22. I've sold $180 million worth of real estate. I still don't know anything. So let alone anybody that has no experience, that's never done anything before, that has never accomplished anything. The only thing that I know is that I know nothing. So the best way to harness and take advantage of the fact that I know nothing is to learn from somebody that knows more than me and just take their word for it. Assuming they're actually good people and they have your best interest at heart, you have to network your way to find somebody that can mentor you and guide you just so you don't hit your head repeatedly against the wall. Because I'll tell you, Chris, when I first got started into real estate, I was blindly spending thousands of dollars on advertising just so I can get clients. But the moment I got a client, because I had no experience or guidance, I didn't know what to do with the clients. So I'm getting all these clients, but I never knew how to convert them into deals. I didn't know how to convert them into sales. It wasn't until I met my mentor and where he sat down with me and said, listen, you have all these clients. Here's exactly what you need to do to get these deals done. Within a matter of who knows how long, I ended up doing a deal.
Yeah. And what's also when I got my financial freedom through real estate, and quite frankly, real estate is cookie cutter. I mean, there's some creative aspect of it, but it's kind of a system and a process. And then I took those skills and I applied it to speaking and helping clients and social media. I really think like learning how to build an audience and communicating, as you said, all these skills and you won't be able to learn these in school. They're not going to have a class on this. You have to go out there and actually apply it. So, which brings me to the question is this future of education, because a lot of Gen Zs, they're coming to me asking me, should I go to college? Is it a waste of money, waste of time? I have a lot of ideas. They can't wait for you to finish, and you got to go into it. So what do you say for that?
In terms of, I don't have any time.
Well, in terms of, for example, let's say you have this startup idea or you have this opportunity. So for me, it's 2008. There was the great financial crisis, and so I leapt full in because that was my opportunity, and had to leave my medical career behind. So what do you say in terms of you have a startup idea, and but then your parents or your friends or everybody's telling you to go to college and spend hundreds of thousands, waste all this time doing things you don't want to really do. So what do you say for that?
If you wanted to become a doctor like yourself, I think it is important to get education. Because the last thing I want, Chris, is somebody working on my body and they've never done anything before or they've had no research. I don't want that because I only have one body. I don't want to mess up any of my organs or anything like that. But if you're like you and I, where you don't care about being a doctor and you just want to acquire real estate, build wealth, create wealth, whatever it is, then the last thing you need is school, because school is simply an indoctrination system that trains you to become somebody that just takes order. You become an order taker. You have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. You have to submit and listen to your professor that knows nothing about business. The best way to learn about business is to learn from someone that has a business. And if you go into the school parking lot of your university, and if you see that there's no Ferraris or Lambos in that driveway, why are you going to be learning from somebody that doesn't even have the resources to make those type of investments, those purchases? So you have to learn from somebody that has what you want. Your professors, I guarantee you, those guys don't have what you want. So don't go to school if if you have a startup idea, if you have parents that are telling you, you have to go to school, you have to go to school. I come from a Filipino background. When I first told my parents when I was 18 that I'm declining all of my university offers to pursue something called real estate, to pursue business, for months on months, we were arguing about how crazy I was because I had it all perfectly laid out. I had job opportunities, school opportunities that were, so to your words, like in your words, cookie cutter. I could have went down the 9 to 5 route. I had very much a lot of opportunities to do that, but I was very uncomfortable with the situation I was in. So I refused to go down that route because it didn't sit well with me. So I took that leap. But that's not for everybody. Some people need a 9 to 5. Some people are not cut for it. But if you are cut for it, then I would simply say don't go down that route because you're just going to be fed a bunch of lies about things you should do. And you're going to have to unlearn everything anyway.
Yeah, good points. I think, modern education, I was giving a talk, and then basically 22 years ago or so, basically you had modern education. That was like the traditional, like 90% went there. And then now when I talk to kids, these generation, about 40% are going the traditional route. And, the rest are entrepreneurs. I think there's good and bad. Like, if you're in school, it's good to develop a social network, or if you need time to decide what you want, but it's not like going to be clear cut, everybody. Yeah. You have you have this unique angle and slant about business development. So tell us kind of your overarching thesis and hypothesis, and we'll go into detail and depth how it applies to different areas.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I started my business right when COVID locked us all down. I guess it might have been different for you, Chris, in Texas. I don't know how it was, but in Canada, it was like, we can go down that route. We'll save that rabbit hole down, for another time. But every day there's some kind of update about this locking down. You're not allowed to do this now. There's a new update about COVID every single day. So for 2.5 years, I was locked down. I'm unvaccinated. So for 2.5 years, even when restrictions lifted, I wasn't allowed to go into restaurants to meet my clients. So I bring that up because every single time something changed in the economy or political related things, every time something changed, a common phrase that my team and I started to say was back to basics, which was this. We didn't fall into the trap of going down and finding the sexiest way to do deals. This was, and for those listening and not watching, I'm making a hand sign, a phone sign with my hands. You have to go back to basics. My unique perspective in business is that I throw away a lot of the sexy new garbage that comes out. Yes, a lot of it works. Yes, you can make lots of money. I have people in my own personal space that made lots of money with crypto schemes and all these things. I've made it myself. I've made some money in these random new AI, new technology stuff. I've done it. But for me, what I've learned is that the easiest way to get started in business is to keep it as simple as possible. So for me, it was as simply as meeting as many new people as possible and making as many phone calls as possible. That's on the real estate side. And then when I started AutoVision GTA, the reason why I was able to scale that business to a six-figure operation in 4 months is because I just simply use what I learned from real estate, which is networking, how to build relationships. So when you do it once, it gets easier and easier.
When COVID hit, I basically made it a point to never have to get locked down again. And if I had the lockdown, I could still run my business from anywhere. So, everything is like, for example, phone, Zoom, any, Google Chat, digital, virtual. And it's been awesome. They can shut down the entire world. It won't affect anything anymore. So, that's the way the world is going. And if you're smart, you can hang on and leverage those trends. So
yeah, and we're in a recession now, right? Like as much as people did not try to deny it, we're in a recession now. And guess what my team and I are saying now? Back to basics, which is this. We're just making phone calls to all of our clients saying, hey, listen, we're not here to sell you anything. You obviously have purchased with us before. I just wanted to know what your thoughts are in the real estate market in 2023. Some people are going to say, no, I don't plan on buying for another 5 years. But someone of the thousands of calls we're going to make, someone's going to say, I'm actually thinking of purchasing another investment property. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for the next greatest thing, this chat GBT, that new AI stuff. That stuff is great, and we're going to incorporate that in our business, but we can never take our eyes off the basics, which is making phone calls and building relationships. That's all it comes down to in sales. It's hard for me to say that for people running tech startups, for example, because I don't know that business that well. But if you look at the way those guys raise capital, the principles are the same. They're building relationships. They're meeting as many new people as possible. They might not be making hard sales calls the way my team is, but the principles are still the same. You need to build those relationships.
Yeah, building relationships. And then another thing is, especially one startup founder, he's my friend, is saying, in recessions time, you want to get lean as possible. I think Brian Chesky said the same thing. You want to operate like a startup, get lean, just stay hungry, keep producing. And so really interesting. So you have a very, like I said, this is for the audience out there listening to Luke, this is how Gen Z is thinking. This is how Gen Alpha, which is the next generation, they're going to be the ones that are creating the new trends, culture, innovations, technology. So, so start to learn from younger individuals, get their creative energy, and you'll be that much better for it. Excellent conversation. How do the guests follow you, contact you, and get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way to learn from me is I don't actually, in fact, sell a course or any program, but on my website, luclising.com, that's spelled LUCLISING.com. There at the bottom of my page, I have a newsletter that you can sign up to. There I give free advice on all things business, politics, economics, whatever you want to talk about that's present. That's I should say important in today's economy and market. I talk about that and give my advice on that. If you want to reach me directly, I'm most active on Instagram, which is at Luc Lising.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. And for all the listeners out there, be sure to follow Luc. He's on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, but Instagram is his desired channel. And his website is luclising.com. Check it out. Sign up for his newsletter. And with that, excellent conversation, very passionate, smart, motivated individual, and be sure to follow him on all of his channels. So with that, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Chris.